Hello, aviation types. This morning we're going to take a look at some basic parts of our welding torch. We'll be using these in a lab, and you need to know what the basic parts are as part of our practical exercise. So let's begin with this part. This is the torch tip, and these are interchangeable. And if you notice, there's a hole, small hole on the end of that tip, and we change these tips out based on the thickness of metal that we're going to use. The tip size determines the amount of heat, not temperature, but the amount of heat that the torch produces. The next part down would be the body of the torch. That's from where our hoses connect from here up to where our tip, and the body provides a handle in order for us to hold the torch, and two valves. Now these valves control gas flow, which is critical to making the flames we need to use. You can always determine which valve is which based on your hose colors that best align with the valve. In this case, we come down to this maroon or reddish color. That's acetylene, and this valve, if we trace it down to this green hose, green always represents our oxygen. So there's really kind of a few basic parts: the body, the tip, and each valve in these locations. Now your hose is connected to these little guys. These are our regulators, and this valve, for example, simply turns on to allow gas to flow, and the regulator, we turn in to increase gas flow, we turn out to slow gas flow. Always remember that by saying in to increase. And when we come to lab, we're going to set these. For this particular setup, we'll put 10 psi of oxygen. Remember, we can always follow that by green hose. We're going to run roughly 5 psi of acetylene with the red hose. Now we'll go through a safety brief before we come to lab that's going to cover how we should do things while we're down here in order to be safe and not get burned. Let's see if we turn it this way. So setting these is critical. When you turn these valves on, you don't open them all the way. It's not necessary. What we'll do, I generally open about half on each valve and about half on each valve, and then I'll slowly increase until I see the pressure that we want to run that torch at. You do that on both valves. Once you've done that, then we'll open the valves on our torch, starting with our fuel gas, acetylene, and we will use one of these things to ignite it. You never use a cigarette lighter or any other type of lighter. We always use a striker because a striker is safe. It allows you to get your hand away from your torch. And once you ignite and set your acetylene, we'll start adding oxygen, and that's going to create some different types of flames that we'll cover in the lab. So as a quick review back over some of these things, let's look at the parts of the torch. We have our tip. Each tip, and I'll see if I can get it to zoom, has a different size hole. The hole determines the temperature, or excuse me, strike that. The hole determines the heat, not the temperature. We have our valves, tip valves, our basic handle, our hoses, and our regulators. When we set all this up, we can ignite it, make a flame. There'll be 3 types of flames that we'll establish, and I'll show those in person. But we're going to make a carburizing flame, a neutral flame, and then finally we'll make an oxidizing flame. And that is the really big part of the practical exercise we're going to do. Remember this: always be safe in the lab, because often we're under dark glasses, and because of that, It's difficult to see around you, and we don't want to burn each other, and we definitely don't want to burn the instructor. So for the time being, this is a little quick tour through the welding lab, the area you'll be in. And this is your friendly neighborhood A&P instructor saying, do good work and be safe.